Hey, Crystal, this thing is buzzing.
No, it's this thing up here.
Oh, I was gonna say,
The- It's the copy, and it's not wanting
the
to.
projector.
Yeah, that's it. But what do you call that thing?
Okay, so it is 6:02, July 12th, 2023. This is the monthly planning and zoning meeting. Members present are John Hammond, Ken Peterson, Bronwyn Gooch, and Cameron Spenlow. Wyatt Lee would be out today. He had some pay that he had to put up. Angelia said she might make it to the meeting a little later. She said she was gonna try, but she wasn't sure. All right, so, we'll start the meeting with the declaration of conflict of interest. John? No. Kent? No. Cameron, no. Bronwyn? First item on the agenda is review and approval of the minutes for June 14th, 2023. Anybody have any corrections or comments on those minutes?
Yeah,
Were they just highlighted?
was what I said, and I just fixed a couple of things, was just.
Some on the-
It's, it was,
Must have looked at it after you picked.
yeah, you did.
Kent, did you have anything on those minutes? I'll take a motion on the minutes. I'll make a motion, Bronwyn, on the minutes.
I want to make a motion that we approve minutes for June 14th, 2023.
Thank you. Bronwyn made the motion. Do I have a second?
Okay.
John seconded the motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move to letter D. This is open forum, 2 minutes per speaker. This is for anything that's not on the agenda. Or not on the public hearing agenda, sorry. Is there anyone for open forum today?
You know, can you reach?
We didn't make your microphone.
Take one, two.
The button's on the bottom. Hold it until you see the blue light come on. Or the green one.
Let go. It's on. All right, no one for open forum today. Commissioner comments. Does anybody have anything for commissioner comments? Sean?
Yeah, most of the comments will probably come on items themselves. Have anything that are.
Okay. And anything for commissioner comments? No. Great. My only comment is. If you guys would review the DOT. Also, if you want to go over our. The access plan that we talked about. A while back, we've been working on. If you'd review those so that we can, bring them back together and then see how they match and how they don't.
Oh, sure.
They said how they're gonna have an open house. Right now, they've got it tentatively scheduled for August 8th. Which would be before your next planning commission meeting. I don't know if it's to stay on the stage, I'll find out tomorrow. But at the present time, it's set policy.
Okay,
Just like,
so that was August 8th for the DOT,
open house.
open house. Plan for Virgin.
So is that before they decided it, we're just present with that.
That'll be before they decide.
Was. Did you want me? We don't need any discussion or comment about that until after that.
I'd like to start, because we've already had some public hearings, or, we've had some public meetings on it, and taking public comment on it as we looked at the access plan. So I'd like to start rectifying those things, looking at those things now. Just because it's a big. I think any jump would be good on that would be good. If, we stick to looking at the access portion of that we've already had meetings about and hearings about.
Yeah, I've already seen it in my comments.
All of your minutes and, have been submitted, minutes from all of your. They can send it.
Oh, that's good, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Bronwyn, do you have anything for commissioner comments?
Nothing that's not on the agenda. For today. Before. When she wants to come with a little presentation.
Well, it's just kind of, if you have something that we're gonna work on or want to go. More cooperation on, but we can wait if you'd like to save your comments till the end of the meeting, we can do that. Bronwyn's gonna reserve her comments until the end of the meeting. No, thank you. Next item, I'm sorry. I need a motion then, if we're done with so before I receive that motion, just, so everyone knows, Angelia Glacier has now joined the meeting. She's one of the alternates and she is taking the place of Wyatt, as he cannot be here, so she is now at the meeting. Angelia, do you have any conflict of interest with the agenda today?
No.
Thank you. All right, Bronwyn, you want to go ahead and make your motion again?
I want to close the public hearing and about your opening.
Opening public hearing.
Taking public hearing, closing public meeting.
Thank you. So I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
So Bronwyn made the motion, Angelia seconded the motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Just hold that for about 3 seconds,
Where?
right there.
There you go.
All right, so we're now in our public hearing. We have one item on the public hearing. This is a revision to chapter 60 to close the short-term rental subdivision overlay zone. So we'll take any comments now on that change. No public comment on the change. All right, we'll take another motion then.
Well, I'd like to make a motion this time to close the public hearing in the public meeting.
Brown made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Angela seconded that motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so now we're in our public meeting. Item A on the public meeting is the revision of chapter 60 to close the STR subdivision overlay. Okay, discussion.
I would like maybe to address why we're closing short overlay. Or how are we, or how is this permanent? Is it temporary?
Yeah, so by the reading of this, they're adding a section, it would be adding section 60.03. It would be closure and limited application of the STR development overlay zone. And it simply states that effective, well, this backdates it to June 20th. that they will not accept any more applications and the zone is considered closed. It does, protect all, it does,
Just read.
attempt, you want me to just read it? Well, you, okay,
Me too.
oh, yeah, go ahead and read it.
Effective June 20th, 2023, the STR Development Overlay Zone is designated as closed. Accordingly, the town will not accept any unchanged applications from property owners seeking to rezone their property with the STR Development Overlay Zone designation. Nothing in this limitation shall affect the validity of existing developments which have applied for and received STR Development Overlay Zone designation prior to the effective date set forth above. So it just closes the. You can't apply for it anymore, so until, you know, till further notice, until it's changed again or permanently. It's just where you stop. With protection for those who've already received it.
Yeah. Discussion?
Sure, why not just do it for a year?
Why do it for a year? That's not, a year's not long enough to see any result and see any change, like. We won't know for a year, and I don't know, what would be the reason to do it for a year?
So, no, you're fine, so, I guess, why would you think that a year is not enough to see the results of?
Well, how
What's
long
that?
has the, how long, well, you mentioned several times how long the process has been to get any development happening anyway, and just the fact that these things don't happen quickly, so a year doesn't really.
But however, you know, that is true. However, we do have one subdivision that's received the overlay that has a house that's currently under construction.
Yeah, but how long, I mean, some of these applications have been in for years. The other thing is, there's nothing that precludes us from opening it in a year. We give people no restriction on it. So, if the year was working, then we can make a, you know, consideration then.
So I guess the reasoning to close it for a year and then have it automatic reopen would be. That would put the onus on having it closed permanently. That would put the onus on the town to close it permanently, whereas if you close it permanently right now, the town would have to reopen, right? So whichever way takes less work is the most likely outcome. Right,
Right, well, and it's the most prudent, not just with one media, you know.
well.
Sorry.
That's what we're debating. Jean, you had
Just. You can put more toilets. Save them.
So. Thank you.
So, along with that. Little comment specifically about that. I believe, again, this is. This is coming into this the wrong way. The ordinance, changing it, adding to the ordinance, again, is not the proper way. We've already been working on the changes to chapter 60. Brown has been working on it for quite a while. I've already tested that things. They're already there. The best route for this would have been a simple resolution, moratorium for the 6 months. We get the pending ordinance doctrine in place at that point. Then we work on that ordinance and in 6 months we get it fixed, or we don't. And then the ordinance is fixed. This is kind of a messy fix. Then you have to go and if you do fix the ordinance, then you have to scrub this one out as well. Why go to that? Putting this in place, simple resolution, could have done the same thing for the next 6 months. We fixed it. We've already been working on it. Why are we going to go to that for doing it over again? That was my argument from the beginning was let's work on it, let's get it done. We're just been
Well, I think, Sean, that the reason to close this is not to fix it, the reason to close it is because for some, it's unfixable.
So, yeah,
Just the idea of it being there is not correct for the town.
yes, and I want to say again, I don't think it ever could have been a zone. I agree 100%, but I want to fix the ordinance. I don't think putting an ordinance and saying, we're gonna close the zone, and then having to go back in and fix the ordinance and fix this one too, because now it's part of the ordinance. Why don't we have a resolution that says, we're going to fix it in the next month, we'll take care of it. Then whoever comes in and full bit is under that in ordinance process, and then we do it.
So we have an opportunity and the city council to moratorium, working with their conditions, and I agree, that would have been
But it was, more.
do it. But I think in order to get out of the confusion that we have with our ordinances and this the process, and to meet the need of, just to meet the needs of the town in stopping if that, and I feel that. Great. And to be able to rewrite it, I think this is the best course of action we can take. At this point, I don't think waiting helps, because you don't want anything else, and we have so much drama with things that were caught in the flux. What are we gonna do, and what should be done, and what was done, and what was only done part way, all those things. I think it's just a clean break, that now we have as much time as we need to organize, not just the SDR overlay zone, but to figure out for real how the town feels about STR and what actually needs to be done, big picture wise, a complete ordinance that addresses all the issues related to it, and everything. So I think it's a decent way to handle it. Not ideal, it would have been better than other perhaps, but I think it's okay for what we're at, for where we're at.
Because you're saying ordinance. And actually putting it in Google is more important than just fixing the one that we have
I don't,
by,
no,
and stopping it by.
no, I'm saying stopping the bleed with the ordinances that we're confusing is important, so the timeline, that's an important thing too. I think, I don't think there's a downside to this. The significant amount, I think it gives us all the room we need to do more work, we do that after.
So again, why couldn't it be done by resolution first?
We don't need to go around that circle again.
So what we have in front of us, Cameron, if I could
Go ahead. Sean.
Good, the debate on whether or not SDRs are good or bad for our community, that's a whole nother debate, another day, I don't want to bring it up. This document though, I would have hoped that a comment from last month would have been transcribed into this one, so we could have it there. I know that. I know it, and it should have come through us, but it did not, okay, and that's part of the other part of the process. We do, try to rectify it. Because we could have done something like this ourselves, we were just not even have to do it. They wanted something right away, and this is the Band-Aid, that's why. The things that it should change, if it has to go, if it does, I'm against anything like this, even though I don't want the zone. Don't want it to be a zone, so I'm for it, but I'm against it because of what it's stating, that we don't want anybody to do anything. We do want develop, we do want that, we want houses to be built, we have some structures that people can live in, whether it's SPR, or single family housing later or workforce need housing. So in this particular document, again, the things that needed to be changed were 60.03 is not the right section from still where it needs to be. It needs to be 60.01. And also, it also says Nothing in this limitation shall affect the validity of established development which have applied for and received the SDR development. Can't say can, because some of them have applied, they haven't received. Because they haven't applied for the final plat, and that's when they actually receive it. So we gotta take out sure, and get it so it says, and or, and some way to make sure that the ones who have applied, the ones that we're talking about, still can. But the way it's written. So those are the recommendations that we have to go this route. I would still say that it would just be nice and tell them to do a resolution. Remove it away, and then your document, we start debating now. In a few months, we could have something that would rectify the whole zone issue that everything. I have a document for over almost a year now. And with this seven. So. Why haven't we moved forward with it? I'm still wondering.
Thank you, Sean. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to, remove the short-term and overlay section of chapter 16. Or to not include the subdivisions that, are in, the, whatever phase it would be, pre-final phase or haven't had a final phase, be able to be excluded from that closure.
So, I'm not, are you, making the motion, just a clarifying question, sorry. Are you making the motion to recommend approval of this ordinance, with the suggestion that wording be changed to ensure that current developments can proceed?
Yeah.
Kent's made the motion to recommend approval with the caveat. Do I have a second on that motion?
I second.
Bronwyn's made the second on that motion. Any further discussion on this before we vote?
Do we believe that this is the right section to do? You want to make that recommendation? 8.03. It
Yeah,
really ultimately doesn't matter because it will be taken out.
yeah, that's,
As soon as you get your
Would you, 60.0, do you want to make a friendly amendment or you want to make an amendment or
measurement.
Amend my motion to 60.
Over.
he's making an amendment to change the section from 60.03
Corrected it was 01.
to 60.01.
there's, but, so then, wait,
All the addition is changing the number.
okay, because it doesn't say we're taking out any sections, so we needed to add, so it's the same.
It's the same thing, it's just changing the location.
We're just taking it. I was waiting for this. I was expecting a word. Number one, to the. That's in 6001 instead of instead of creating 6003,
Yes.
right? Is that what you wanna do?
That, what we
Yes.
want to do.
It doesn't matter, if you want to do that, yeah, we can say it.
It makes sense that it comes before the section.
I'm not gonna- that's how-
Cameron, one more. Go on.
Go ahead.
Whether we do anything about it or not. the whereas in there are quite lacking on the reasoning behind this. If the town council wants to have further reasoning behind why their closure on this, that would be helpful.
Can we ask for them? Along with our
Plenty of-
recommendation?
Plenty of reasons, I'm sure that they can come up with plenty of reasons, but when it has an ordinance, it ends up being part of the whole documentation of Lulu, look at it and say, well, why did they do this? Right now, it doesn't really say anything except for we've had 2 years of subdivisions coming in. All of them have been short-term rentals. It doesn't say why it's necessary to close that. Just says that we have,
You know, most towns have a little breakdown for,
Yeah.
the why, and
so if they want to have more in it, so that later on in the future, somebody can read it, so this is the reason why.
how do we word that? You know, do we just say, well, within a suggestion along with her recommendation?
I think we'll just let it sit.
Okay.
There's 2 members of the council here, so they've heard.
I heard.
Yeah, there's probably more watching than listening to.
Okay.
They get to see my big beautiful face this whole time.
Are you ready to?
My only comment before we move to the vote, unless someone else has a comment, is, mine would be, I won't support that simply because I think that to close something permanently that has not been shown to have ill effects is not the appropriate way to go about it. And so I don't support closing it permanently at this time. Any other comments before we go to the vote? John?
No.
Kent?
Yes.
Cameron, no. And Julia?
No,
Bronwyn?
Yes.
The motion fails. Someone want to give us another motion? You want further discussion? I'll make a motion that we recommend denial of this ordinance. With the suggestion that the town council consider adopting a 6-month moratorium in lieu of this ordinance. Yeah, and then send us another ordinance, so. That's my motion.
Okay.
Cameron made the motion, John seconded the motion. Any further discussion on? it?
Would like to make an amendment to that one.
Oh, go ahead.
Would like to amend the motion to be 1 year instead of 6 months.
you can't
Make
have a year moratorium by law is 6 months and only 6 months.
Okay.
You cannot.
All right. Correct. It can't be a year. It can be 6 months.
And you cannot renew it.
For good cause.
It can be. Okay, so moved. Get that? Crystal?
Thank you, and, I think the addition is unnecessary, so I will reject the amendment. Does someone want to second his amendment? No amendment, we will vote on the original motion, Sean?
Yes.
Kent?
No.
Cameron, yes, and Julia?
Yes.
Bronwyn? The motion passes 3-2. If either Kent or Bronwyn, if you want to write up a reasoning and send it to me, then I will add that to the request for action document.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. My computer. We'll move on to our next items for discussion items. These are no action will be taken on these items. We will. We have, I would like to amend the agenda and move, let's move item 3, before item number 2 in the discussion, if that's okay. The commercial zone location, I wanted to move it up because we have. We have April here, who just wants to speak on it for a minute. And look to open the discussion. So, give you a second. So. If that's okay, we have a point of order and move straight to 3. Do I have a second? Sean seconded that point of order to. We'll have a vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Get right.
I'm here on behalf of Keith Ratter, our client, who owns the property on SR9. For residential and unable to apply for anything else because of the current zoning ordinance. Do not allow anything commercial beyond the most point currently, but it's now the new gas station. And we're just wondering if the town could discuss and consider moving that border down further west, because we are finding that nobody really wants to live right on SR9. It's dangerous and and the highest and best use for that property. It's not really residential. So we can apply for a zone change at this point, but just wondering if it becomes part of the section for the town to talk about anything of bordering SR9, possibly having that right, but it's right in the ordinance, it's not commercial. I know that has some with commercial, but not an ideal place to go either. So.
Where is that been?
So we're just east of the teachers, Randall Ranchette. He's finding it hard to get advantage in and out of one of these. And then we have been for long in here for all of her fun out. We're in it trying to get into their homes. It's just not a great, it's not a great one. So we're just bringing it up for a second. Wondering if there's any ways to in that. Or the current ordinance and then.
Do we have a map before this is?
You pull up this one. How big is the property again? You can-
3.4 acres.
So
So
it's
we
about
can get
3
to the home there. It's currently the zone 1.
And if I remember right, Casey's is the first property, yours would be right next to it, so the second property. Okay.
Here,
Yes,
and the red is commercial.
Yes.
yes. And yeah, so we're going to set up those 4 properties. PC's already doing a little light agricultural heavy horses. And then it's a big use in residential way, I think that's okay, but it's a light use, that's kind of what we were hoping for, some kind of light commercial use. As defined on whatever ordinance you. We have the resort residential, right? Or resort, rental resort.
I resort, yes.
Yeah, this is something we can offer someone other than. um, So, okay, that's all.
Thanks, April. So this is a discussion item, any questions or comments? Any questions first, I guess?
Yeah. I'm wondering on this type of a thing. Um. If leaving it like it is. Residential. And a person thinking of doing something commercial on 50 months property for sale, can they come and apply for something?
You know, they cannot currently because our ordinance stops the commercial zone from expanding past. That's the final red property right there. So, ordinance currently written, can't go back to. That's the one. None of these could be known commercial based on our ordinance.
Why that might be the reason? Reason might have been.
I think the reasoning was there was hesitation to expand the commercial zone anyway within town. There was a general there was a disagreement of whether it could be expanded or not be expanded, and it was more palatable to restrict it to a smaller area at the time that this was created.
You guys have resort zone, originally, you guys have resort zone.
Can you repeat that?
Well,
You guys have resort zone actually go that far. And then you guys have rid of resort zone completely.
the resort zone was closed, so
Yeah, but resort zone was allowed to go that far.
it was,
But it was closed.
but it was closed. Since I've been in here, anyway, it's been closed.
It was closed with that, he goes over.
No, it was closed before, it was eliminated under. No, I guess. I guess the reasoning is, if I understand her correctly, is because it's two and a half, just shy of 2.5 acres. Only 2 homes can be put on it because of the terrain and its location, it's not ideal. Or not cost effective to put 2 homes on that property. So that's why they're asking for commercial, because then something manageable could be done there.
So we have a state highway frontage,
Mhm.
and is it just these 4 lots, or are there more to the left?
There's more property to the west, but that big green is all BLM. So the only way it could go further would be BLM lands. Yeah, that green is BLM.
Are there any limitations on commercial size or it's how small commercial zoning?
1 acre, 1 acre, unless it's encompassed by other commercial, and then it can also change over. But 1 acre is the.
So I'm struggling a little bit to understand how in the future we can continue to restrict that to somebody wanting to build a home on a state road with the expansion and improvement of the road and the growth of commercial and resort. I'm just not sure that looking at it from a commercial and town aspect, it's, I don't see it as taking away neighborhood potential. See it as restricting as owner said, their ability to market the property. Not that they probably didn't know that for a long, long time,
Yeah,
but still, we've changed in the past 10 years. And I think you'll continue to need to look at the corridor border as primarily commercial or town-based properties than residential.
of more public use.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ken. Anyone else have any comments on that?
I kind of feel that when general plan was restated, that all commercial was going to be up on that highway, I think this is just an oversight that we didn't catch, that it said to the furthest west commercially zoned parcel. Only that I don't like the idea as well that we have location that if it meets a criteria, it should be able to apply for it anyway. So these 4 parcels being commercial are eligible for commercial is absolutely fit with what we already have in our plan. And it is our oversight that we can do that important. And they did really did say commercial zone designation is available on the state route 9 frontage. Is really what it did say, is that's how it is. Everywhere on the east of town is all highway commercial, and we have that locked down to that area. Everything else is commercial, eligible for commercial. Property owners. I make a proposal that we come up, fix that document, and have a fix for it right in next month. No, this is just discussion, I'm making a suggestion.
I'm thinking the town, it's major.
So,
Open it up,
so can you,
see how they come out.
hold on.
Oh, boy, we just put up something for.
Can you explain more, Brian?
There's a lot of controversy about the commercial zone in that particular area, and I think, we need to have a lot of consideration before approaching that subject. And we need to think about why.
Can you
So what more? Go ahead. Ken.
detail about the controversy? I mean, is that,
I rather know.
is that from the start? That, is there somebody else?
There's a lot of people right there that are crossing that, they're adamantly against having commercial there, and there's huge drama and enemies and problems all over this town. I mean, makes my heart hurt to think of it, but if it's gonna be considered, we just need to do it very carefully and very wisely. We need wisdom we haven't yet had.
So eligibility is different than
Yes and no, it's the same controversy. It'll be the same controversy at either level.
So Cameron, would you, confirm that, you mentioned earlier on that it just got to a point that there was so much controversy that they stopped it at that point, right?
That would be.
So, so the last time that this was amended, the last time that this was amended was, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago, 6 to 8 years ago, somewhere in that time frame. There was a referendum on the changes at the time. Most of my understanding was most of that referendum, most of the problems that were trying to be rectified with that referendum were about uses more than location. But there was also the idea that people wanted to keep commercial contained, right? So there's both of that. Now that referendum never ended up happening because a compromise was reached between two of the people that were filers of the referendum and the town. And so they had, with that compromise, the referendum was dropped and the changes were made. And the current zone as it exists with maybe some minor changes is what we have now. So that's kind of the history of it.
And mostly weren't those focused on stuff right in the middle of town, up here at the top of Mill Street, along that corridor, not particular out on the west.
I think that the location was a lower of importance during that struggle. That doesn't mean it was of no importance, but it was of lower importance. Now I'm sure that Ron was right, and that many people in Desert Gardens would not be supportive of that change, especially those that are on highway. Be less supportive, inclined to be less supportive.
They would be considered.
Yeah.
I understand that.
I am. I do see what they're saying is. To make any sort of subdivision there, you would almost have to have. All 4 parcels. To subdivide that, we'd almost have to have all 4.
And then with your acre requirement. You need to get it.
Lots. 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 at the most,
Yeah.
and then, and roads and the terrain. Well, that would include the person's house, being bulldozed. You know, I'm saying to make that a feasible subdivision, you'd almost have to have all 4 of those lots.
The highest and best use when you're on that highway has to be considered for the current property. I mean, it's not the property owners that live here whenever. Like, unless they want to go buy it. And it is. We dictate what our property gets to do based on. That you move here and. Don't want anything else to happen around you.
Are you representing the buyers?
At the time, he wasn't gonna fight for commercial use. He didn't need it commercial use anymore, commercial use, but as he's not doing well, and he wants to sell and
Do you know how long the owner has owned the property?
look for years. He thought it when we sold, the property up here to the school, boys home. They were about
7,
to
8
put a
years.
boys home there, because it was zoned for that, and then.
7, 8 years.
Oh, so we were not almost 20.
Years, well, for that 28, 20. That's what they're saying. I don't know what was that. Angela, you got any? Want to make any comments?
I think what everyone is saying is our biggest concern is Desert Garden. But other than that, I feel like everyone else is kind of, why not? I mean, there's 4,
Maybe Casey.
maybe Casey. Maybe Casey. But yes, I would agree, talking with Desert Garden could be tricky and probably have some people that are not very happy. But looking,
Which is understandable.
yeah, which is understandable. They do have a fence along the highway. I mean, things have changed drastically for them, just with SR9 getting even more busy. That small commercial probably wouldn't be that impactful in my mind.
I propose you write ordinances for that. That's 70 now. But it if we need them. Something you don't have, maybe already in software.
The commercial zone we have is fairly soft, you know? It's,
Sounds something that's small, it's hard to get much.
That's where for me, I don't see. I would be okay moving forward to discuss further. Not today, but. A relative term on using you.
Sean, do you wanna write up some, proposed change to that ordinance for public hearing?
Wait, for the hearing. We gotta go over it.
You want to list a public hearing for next month?
You want Well, you're gonna, hold on 1 second. I know that's being said,
We're talking.
I'm gonna leave by the 24th.
what do you mean, Ronald?
I'm just saying, as a committee, we would look over something that was proposed and we can't start a public hearing before we even had a chance in a regular meeting. We have to look at the regular meeting with them for discussion before we can put up a public hearing.
Why do you feel like this discussion hasn't sufficed for that?
Well, it's not agenda.
Did it?
No, the discussion of it is not, I mean, we're discussing hypothetically, we don't have any paper to look at, we don't have any orders to discuss that. We're putting it in the clean.
Section 40.0.
So you want to see it in writing for,
We should always, anything we're gonna put up in public hearing and vote on, we should have it. The writing as best we can and.
Okay, let me tell you exactly what I'm going to do. 40.06, it says commercial zone designation is available along the state route 9. SR frontage. Extending, it says currently extending west from Pocketville Road to the furthest west commercially zoned parcel. It will say extending west from Pocketville Road to the furthest west property of our town border. That's it. Just gonna say where it says commercially zoned parcel, I'm gonna say
But you can't. Say, have an idea. Yeah, have put an idea up for public hearing, or we have to put a document next time, we have to put a document. We have to put an ordinance that we have crafted,
we do have
not an idea.
hold on, Sean, let her finish, please.
I just think that that's. Completely backwards from what you said 2 meetings ago.
Wait, Sean.
About following the right processes. I think it's super important. It's super, I mean, we can't just decide we're gonna put on public hearing something we never even have yet. I mean, you said like 2 meetings ago. Gotta make sure we follow the right process. I think we should stick to that.
We'll go to Kent and then Sean, just Kent had a comment, thank you.
I think my common sense, not that I have a lot, but mine tells me that this is the kind of thing that the planning and zoning needs to look at in a way that, okay, what is this for? It's their challenges to make it residential, obviously. We talked a little bit about that. There's controversy about making it commercial, because I think we just throw everything, all of our fears into that one word. And there's lots of different types of commercial, and maybe planning and zoning should have a committee or something that looks into the possibility of how other small communities, gateways or whatever, have taken and said, we're gonna put a special zone on it, a special commercial zone. It can't be another service station, or it can't be a highway resort. It's going to be business or something that, and we control how that's done and what it's done for. And I know that's much more specific than we've been in the past in a lot of ways. But I think that it calls for a planning and zoning committee, or better yet, if we were bigger and wealthier, our planning commissioner, our employee planning director puts together a plan for us to look at and say, this particular piece of property has challenges, and here's some ideas or an idea of what we could do to make this palatable to neighbors who have made huge investments in their residential across the street, to the town entrance, which is, this is half of the town entrance coming from the west to the east. And frankly, I think there's there's a nice sign there. By the way, there needs to be some improvement on that sign, Mayor. The virgin sign.
Hey, I think did that.
It's got stone falling
So
But yes, it can be improved.
okay. I've been wanting to get that in.
Okay.
So I wonder if we're just getting ahead a little bit to say, let's jump in here and just look at, let's make this commercial. Let's think about whether we can get some ideas. And I'd be willing to go to some architects on a pro bono basis and say, talk to me, who I know, to give me some ideas of how we can help this particular critical part of the entrance to our town boundary, how we can make that attractive and to the current landowner, to potential landowners and developers. Is there some other thing other than just, let's call it highway resort, let's call it commercial, let's call it residential?
Can I make a comment on that?
Go ahead.
So it makes me think of the rules that we already have in place on how far setbacks can be. How big buildings can be, those are all part of what is even possible on those individual lots. I mean, yes, right now we look at them and not all of them may want to be commercial with his particular property where, what was it, 2.44 acres. If they go commercial, there's gonna have those setbacks. And I mean, 2.44, you mentioned service station, they're probably not gonna put in the service station because it's not gonna make financial sense. Based on all the requirements that our town currently has in place as kind of a map on what we can and can't do with commercial. So I guess I see what you're meaning on trying to help make the town more comfortable on how what can be designated in potentially smaller commercial lots. But I think exactly what you guys have already been doing on deciding what is allowed in commercial versus highway resort, and the regulations already in place help a lot to navigate potential investors or property owners who have commercial properties. That's just.
If I could make a comment.
Go ahead.
Okay, as far as the process, these are process, planning and zoning processes. You look at ordinances that we need to do. This one, as far as, did we not see that before? Yeah, that's something simple. The agreement here would be, let's go ahead and take a look at it and get feedback. We're not changing a zone. This is a location. My ultimate goal would be to completely remove the location section and not have a location section, because I think it's ridiculous. Then we push it back to general plan, and then we say, doesn't meet general plan. Right now, we're taking general plan and making this our specific location for a commercial zone. We want it on the highway. We want the highway to be our commercial section. Desert Gardens built right up against the highway. Someday, maybe they might end up deciding, just like St. George and Hurricane and Eventually, residential becomes commercial along the highway, they do that. So I don't see why we wouldn't want to push this along as far as eligibility. And then the debate happens when the landowner comes in and says, yeah, I want to have this zone that way. Then that's when the public, everybody else is where the major concerns come. This is not just location and eligibility is not that divisive, critical decision. We're changing one or two words. In fact, we could just cut out words and just say, that's our line frontage, and be just fine with this location. If that's what we do, then you have all the words, we're just taking words out. That is so simple of a change. Why can't we make that decision and then say, let's put together a document and have it ready? That is.
For one thing, our agenda says no action will be taken on these items.
We're not taking an action.
Yeah, it's an action. And also, it just goes against the process that we're trying to put, we have a reputation for being really sloppy, and we kind of earned it as far as how we handle it. Well, you have to read them, maybe tell me after. But I think it's really important, it get written up, and then we have it on an agenda for the meeting, you're not just the idea, not just the comments from her, not just the figures. Give it a minute. And remember just a minute ago when you said, that the town council needed to read that line, and that was a really important thing. You need to take the time to do that. So I'm just saying, take a deep breath, let's do it in order like we want everything else done. And address it appropriately and responsibly, that's what I'm saying. And if you need another example, I have had ideas on the SGR zone for a couple of months now, at least, completed ones. But because I feel it's so important that this body examine it, the actual paperwork, and what I offer, the committee to consider is accurate and something, a respectable product. I haven't asked council, hey, will you just throw that on for public hearing, my ideas about STR, okay, cover for what I want to do, but just throw that on for public hearing, that's the way to do it, so please, I'm just asking that you preserve the order of operation that you yourself said is so important for us to take, to take into consideration. You can't have a goal.
So the order of operation.
Okay, hold on.
I was drafting, it's always been. We operate. That's not going against that operation. When town council was throwing stuff at us and wanted to pass something and send it out. That policy, because it's not following, it's not going through us. And this was not being asked to address it and then taking feedback and then changing that, just like the ordinance we talked about tonight. Why didn't it come to us? We're kind of the back door and then to us, eventually, just for our either rubber stamp or not. That's what I was talking about as far as. I agree, we can take as much time as we want. This is not one of those issues where meeting month and month. Go ahead, I'll write it up. We won't put it on public hearing. We can put it on the agenda. I would have liked some, as soon as possible, get some feedback from the public. We can extend the public hearing if we get feedback that goes against what we want to do. That's not a problem. Get feedback. We need public feedback. That was the point of saying, let's go ahead and just have something ready, put it on public hearing and go forward. But I'm not gonna die on this hill, so let's go ahead and move forward.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? To your point, Ken, I think that's. Like I want to be on board with you on this idea of making another zone, but. Then I started reading through this commercial zone and. And it just seems so. Like, I just don't see a lot of. Difference that you would. That you would change, right? I just don't, I can't see it. With the amount of area that we have in town, the uses that are listed here. And the restrictions on the building size and the setbacks, I just don't see. I just don't see the need for another one, sorry, like, I like the idea. But I can't see it fit to our situation. As far as the no action thing on there, that just means we're not making any motions about it yet. We're not moving the item. Doesn't really,
Well, yeah.
um. Let's have something wrote up. We'll put it, you have to have it to her by the 24th, we'll put it on for public hearing. After we hear public hearing. Then we can make a decision to extend it further or. To just slap, reject it altogether.
Even if it's considered, that would be more.
Would be more than.
It's not.
Well, and are you even in office on the 24th?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just stay home.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait.
All right, we'll move our discussion. Thank you. Just to say thank you to April for her time. Thank you.
I didn't even make that vote.
We could go longer. Shoot for 11 o'clock. We'll move on to the number 2. This is the proposed revisions to chapter 60.04. This one was prepared by Steve. Yes, this is one prepared by us. I can get back to my files. It's the PDF, right?
There's only one, everybody's.
Okay. This is the resident. You can see her outline changes here. In the 60.04, this. When I spoke to her last night about this ordinance, she was unsure of how the wording would be, and she was not opposed to us making some alterations that we thought were applicable to, that would still accommodate kind of her direction with this. I'm sorry, I have not seen this until today, so. But there's just some small changes.
You spoke.
I spoke with her yesterday a little bit.
What's her?
So, the concern is on this that, so the concern is on this is, from my understanding, is that we have a short-term rental ordinance that keeps short-term rentals out of current residential neighborhoods.
Wait.
Yes. So the concern is, we have that ordinance that keeps short-term rentals out of neighborhoods. And the fear is, and the concern is that one way that someone will get around that prohibition is by building a house in an existing area and then putting a manager or a host or someone into that building permanently. And then they will be renting out the rest of the building as a short term or as residential hosting. Right? Whereas residential hosting is designed primarily to help residents that live here.
Like a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, that would be the concern, like, well, they can't really do a bed and breakfast, but they could do they could rent out for 3 or 4 rooms, or 3 or 4 portions of the house, three portions of the house. Currently, in residential hosting, you can rent out 3 portions of your domicile,
If you're,
If the.
if you're, in that.
if you're living in the home,
Yeah, that's the key.
yes, if you're living in the
Owner
home.
is there.
He's trying to tie that up. He's tighter.
He's trying to tie that up, because right now it says, that the residential hosting permit is for the owner or the permanent residents of the dwelling. Right, so you don't have to be the owner and you can still let out that. You can still residential host. If you're not the owner.
So, can I comment?
Go ahead.
So it sounds like there's an issue with definition. As to what is a permanent. Resident. And, let this read it. So I have a couple of comments. Regarding how that might be addressed. And these comments are from Paul Louis. And the mayor. As to tightening up the definitions. So that legally, this concept can be enforced. If there are, code violations. So can I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
His comments are,
Oh, yeah.
Paul says that he prefers that we have owner occupied only for residential housing. And delete permanent resident, that's his preference. But if not, then, he mentioned this last night in their work meeting. That residential hosting, definition in chapter 2 might be deleted. Or on a temporary basis for any period less than 30 days. So the hosting definition would, he says, delete on a temporary basis for any period less than 30 days, 30 consecutive days. And add a new paragraph to 16.2 to that, quote, may not be rented or offered to rent for a period of less than 30 consecutive days. The Utah statute 1098-530 parentheses 4 parentheses I. There's a couple other comments with regard to permanent resident, and I don't know that I could go on, but I wonder if it's appropriate thing. Or if some people would executive.
I'm good with hearing these ideas. Did they come, was this from their work meeting last night?
He said that he said, and or add a new definition for permanent resident to read, quote, permanent resident means an occupant who resides on the property and maintains the residence as his or her true fixed and permanent home and principal establishment, to which, comma, whenever absent, he or she has the intention of returning, and for these purposes, maintain no other residence. Unquote. He said, I also like adding to this definition the mayor's suggestion of permanent resident limited to that of first degree relative. Live, be related. I don't understand why, but. And then he ends by saying permanent resident is read as, quote, permanent resident means an occupant who is a first degree relative of the owner and resides on the property and maintains the residence as his or her true fixed and permanent home and principal establishment, to which whenever absent, he or she has the intention of returning, and for these purposes, maintains no other residence. I don't know where he pulled that stuff from.
He's just trying to designate that it can be the owner or the owner's immediate family. And that's what he's trying to designate, rather than a manager or another resident who isn't.
So he was giving some here as to how
How to word the family part. So,
to word these definitions. Good.
Cameron, go ahead, Sean.
To go back to original intent, I believe that was brought up in the work meeting last time as well. And I believe it was erroneously stated that the whole intent was to have only owners, only those people who live in town and plant been here, right, to rent out rooms. The intent was, this is again another compromise that short-term rentals weren't going to be in the current residential areas of the town. So therefore, it's going to allow the other type of short-term occupancy, where there is a permanent resident and they can sublet those units, and we even limited it to only the 3 rooms within those units. That was done as a compromise to not having short-term rentals in our current, our established residential zone. That was important at the time. We want to just completely erase that and just make it only owner and or only family. There's so many problems with that as far as when you say owner. So we need to address that. So the in their discussion in the work meeting as well was pointed out that that actually a lot of the original wording was actually better than some of the wording that had been proposed. There were 2 proposals. There was one that had completely takes out permanent resident, and the other one is owner or permanent resident. And the original wording was actually in the document now that we have wording was actually better. It was also suggested that you had owner or owner/permanent resident. So you can have so the owner and permanent resident are always tied together. So you can't separate those, you can't have just a manager. Of a facility. So we want permanent residents, we want workforce housing, we want places people can rent. And now we're gonna say, no, you can't, you have to. You have to own the place. And you have a mortgage, do you really own the place, right? So we can go down those roads and argue all things about owners. I think this is completely the wrong direction we need to go. There are a few words in the current ordinance that would make it, that would clarify if we want. There's spots where it just says owner, and it needs to say owner and permanent resident needs to have both those. To clarify that, that you're talking about either or. But as far as the compromise, are we going to hold strong on that and allow that to continue, or are we going to say no? We're going to change that. We're going to pull the rug out from those who have already done that. Now, what was not stated last night as well, and talking process, I don't believe that that's the proper process. Should have been picked up. We should have already been debating, talking about that. Instead of getting order in front of us, discussing already that we have not even looked at until today. So process, yes, it needs to be properly followed. There are applicants that have already applied for this. Yet it was stated last night that the reason for this was preempt any problems that may arise in the future. What are we preempting? There's already applications in involved. Is this to stop the applications that are already coming in and being reactive? And that's exactly what they said they weren't doing. We're not going to be reactive, we're going to be preemptive on them. And really it's reactive because there's already applications applied for. There's already places that have permanent residents, and then there's subletting out places. If I was to sublet out my place or a room, I could do that as long as it wasn't under 30 days. But RHF, one thing difference on that is that it's under 30 days. So what's the big heartache of having somebody who's not the owner? If they're a permanent resident, let's figure the definition of permanent resident if we want. The state has a definition that says you're eligible to vote, you're a permanent resident. So why don't we just use that? Okay, and let's fix that and leave this alone, because this is just fine.
So Sean, just to push back a little bit, Misty was very clear when I spoke with her that she is not attempting or would not attempt to stop anyone that was already in process or had an application in, or who was already looking at doing something that this ordinance allows. And then as far as the process, I think it's good to note that it is a much better, this was not given to us as a public hearing item. This was given to us as a discussion item to work with. So I think that the process here has been followed. To a good degree. Yeah, just push back on those couple of points. Bronwyn, you had something?
Well, I think, the point of residential housing is to bolster the element in the community that creates resident permanence. Okay, so, and, yeah, so, but the point of residential housing is people that live here in Virgin, residents of Virgin, a way to make living here more peaceful, or really supposed to benefit the residents. And what potential. When you have a renter who's going to be the manager for other renters, which is what this would allow. It takes that element out of it. All of a sudden, you're not supporting the residents, like residential hosting should. And permanency of the residents, you see what I mean? You're not making it so, I can stay here forever because I can rent my house out. You're turning it actually into an SDR. You're basically a backdoor to having an SDR if you stay permanent resident. Now, having it stay the owner, staying true to the resident people thing, point. And I mean, I don't know if you want me to point out some of the things, but residential hosting. Well, but it's very good. And it's not intentional. When you start to change that, then it becomes more like an FTR. Enforcement is different. If it's a renter who's the problem with STR, one of the big ones is the idea of enforcement. The idea of accountability and enforcement that keeps these people doesn't put a burden on the town. And residential hosting solves that problem just like that. And so in our residential zones, I think it really would be advantageous to keep our enforcement burden and keep our residents there, give them the advantage. The other thing, well, the other thing is an owner. If you change the word to say an owner, not the owner, then you can include trustees and other things like that, because there are people in our community who own, houses and who want their child or their, whatever to live there, or their trustees for their estate. I mean, I think that fits the intent of residential hosting. I don't know. I mean, I gotta think about this. I gotta think about this some more and the right way to handle it, but I hesitate to just make it backdoor for FTR. I think we'd be better suited.
So just to push back on you a little bit, Ron, with that sort of reasoning that you just outlined, we're really saying that if we move forward with that for that reason, we're really saying that if you're renting your home here, you're less of a resident than someone that owns it.
No, we're not.
Yes, you are, because they don't have the same rights as someone that owns their home.
But they don't have a right to host the same way because they don't own the home. It has to be owner based.
I get you. I know. Hold on, can I finish? Can I finish this?
Yes.
Thank you. If you are taking a right that is given to homeowners within the community that own their home, if you're taking that same right away from someone that's renting their home, you are inherently treating them as less important. And maybe they are less important. I'm not saying that's the wrong, but inherently that's what you're doing.
No, I know.
So I understand the concern. I understand the concern that's being addressed here. And the ideas that are being addressed here with regard to the short-term rental free, the existing neighborhood. I understand the concern. Here's where I have the problem with that, though, is if I were to, if someone owns a home here and they are renting it out, and that person has lived here for 6 to 8 months, they don't plan on moving, that they come to all the town activities, they're voting here, they're active in the community, and they have a casita, we're permanently disallowing them from using the resources of their home, simply because they don't own it. Go ahead.
So I absolutely agree. Any resident is renting for another. What I'm saying is a resident with a renter is less invested in the community than a homeowner, and that is absolutely materially true. That's true.
That's not untrue, they're less invested.
They're less invested, and well, further than. What the data shows, what the research that I've done shows is that it is an investment in the community, i.e. owning home ownership that creates benefit to the community, you know, and not my idea. The evidence shows that if you own a home, your contribution over the long term and short term is greater in the community on many different measures. And that's why residential hosting is beneficial, is because it's permanent, invested residents who take over the load of enforcement. Upkeep and there's, I don't want to go too far, I think there's. So please don't in any way, screw that what I'm saying. Resident is more or less than a person.
So I never said you said that. I said,
You did.
I did not. I said that what you're saying inherently implies.
Well, anyways, education is based on data as far as the benefits of an invested resident and what that means. And ownership is the dictating factor in the level of investment and the level of benefit.
Still, you're implying they're less important because they're less invested.
No, okay.
Any other comments on that?
I guess just the thought that I had, is you mentioned trustees on, you know, and trustees aren't always invested in all of their, I guess, you know, there's the owner of the trust and then they have those below. So I guess my thought was, how can we determine, yes, the trustee is okay, the trustee really doesn't do anything with the ownership of this property, they're just there. What's the difference with them versus, you know, a resident who's going to live here long
Well, so
term?
I just know I don't know, I don't really answer that. I don't know how to weigh that out exactly, I just know that we're missing here. So I was here to bring up with something, you know. If we don't know, yeah, it's a question.
And that's my comment,
There's nothing, I don't know, yeah. I just know that there's people that have trustees that have worked here for a long time.
To Sean's comment on, we're opening a whole situation of.
Well,
Where if the problem is, if you want to limit the property managers, you know, that the owner has to maintain control of the residential hosting, you know, maybe that's the route we go down, is putting something like that in, that it can't be property manager.
that's the only thing I know about the data shows, the only thing I've seen is owner, I've never seen any data on trustees or,
Yeah,
and.
Cameron,
Go ahead,
comment. Again, this whole residential hosting was brought about because people didn't want to see SDR. They wanted somebody permanently in the house with them, so the gate door the problem. They be able to take care of it, they have a contact person to be able to do that. Somebody living in the house, whether they're renting or not. They are there permanently, they are voting members of our community. So that's exactly, it solved that problem, that's why we said residential hosting, okay, and residential. Permanent residential. Anything new to have that. So, I know. Near me, there are places like that, that. The person actually leaves, and then people come in to stay there. But so. There's no one there in the house at that time that actually lives there. But then they leave and then they come back. So that's legal. The owner's there. but only on a. When the short-term renters aren't there.
Wait,
So it's the same kind of thing. We're seeing that already when you write it.
that's something else to.
When you write a law, you're going to have people either be criminals or creative entrepreneurs. They may creative. And I agree. People should be creative as we write bad laws. So let's write the laws so people have options. Not so they have an.
Ken, go ahead, and then we'll come back to you.
What's the main?
So I think the main concern is that instead of getting homeowners that move into existing residential areas, what we will get is a renter that moves into that area that is running 3 short-term rentals out of the same place. And then sub-renting it. And then, you know, at some point, the renter will probably move and will change to someone else. At some point, typically. And so you don't have as much permanency.
So do we have a big problem? I don't know, maybe I feel like it's with like a fear or with the dream. Do we have a problem where a residential hosting, people who qualify under that are taking advantage of current economic claims and short-term rental popularity? And is everybody coming into that home in the next bedroom? Or not everybody, there are a lot of people. And is that causing problems with the town? Is the town receiving revenues from that? Or is it just rent and it goes to the owner?
So I cannot speak if the town's having trouble with that. I know that there are probably close to 24, right? 24 residential hosting facilities here in town. Most of them probably don't have residential hosting permit, but probably close to 24 people.
Legal or not?
No, like people that are residential hosting. How many do you think there is, Crystal? Not how many are having permit, how many are residential hosting?
So the legal ones that have a legal residential hosting license? No, you want,
No, half of them.
how many go?
How many do you think there is?
Well, unfortunately, there may be there's 78, but. According to like the thing where they track. Airbnb, then like 78 and then converting.
Right, but some of those are Weeping Buffalo, and some of those are Wildflower, and some of those are Gene Garatti's place, and some of those are my neighbor, my two neighbors. Right, well, when you say there's 75, when you're saying there's 75 rentals in here, I'm saying not all of those are.
So when I look on like the community website. Like. And I think it's like 4. Or whoever over there has 4.
My neighbor, Joey, yeah, that I
know, I don't know, over there has 4. They don't have a license, so that's illegal, but. Because they don't have a license of the town.
he doesn't know license.
Over here, that's running as a residential hosting license over here. That runs a short-term rental, the whole entire house has no permanent resident in it, but yet
That's what
Only
I'm
has
talking
a-
about.
residential hosting. Permit,
May or may not.
That may not have been one, Sean, that didn't-
that way. They have a residential hosting license, so
but-
they're running full.
okay. How many do you think though?
One full short-term rental license in.
So, okay. How many
So you're.
How many people do you think are residential hosting in Virgin?
Legally.
Like,
That's not what he asked you.
Yeah.
No, right?
No, that was it.
Probably close to 30.
legally, there's 10, probably there's 30. 30 people that are legally doing it without a permit. Like, they're not like the neighbor over here to Sean that doesn't actually live there.
They're doing it. Yeah. But not in a live. I agree.
Another problem,
Yeah, there's a lot. There's like. Not just VRBO and Airbnb,
So I know,
there's a lot of different websites that people have.
so that kind of. Somewhere around 30, I'm gonna guess it's probably a little bit higher than that. I can think of.
we're not talking about people.
No, we're talking people that live in a house, they have a little casita, they rent it out.
Or different people.
Or they rent out a bedroom.
So I'll share my story. So Lacey and Health South, they're building in Virgin right now. So to help them save money so that they could finish building their house, they're currently renting our house. And another part of it, we have a residential hosting permit. So my husband and I currently are not there, but we do have a permanent residence there. I still manage and take care of everything, but they are living at our property for like another month until their house is finished. So that, I guess, an example of what this currently allows.
Yeah, it's the good example.
So we're,
I really don't.
I don't need to admit to. Her.
I don't think there's any legal, currently troublesome.
Well, I guess it depends if we can't.
Yeah, unpermitted.
To me, I wouldn't want to put someone in my house that's going to jeopardize my residential hosting. Just leave that out there.
So one of the other advantages of having, renter is they can afford it. So if they're doing the renting and then the other rooms are Airbnb, then those renters can actually afford it. They have to rent the whole house. You're not gonna get very many renters.
Employee housing now, it's plain Springdale.
She's here, he's a resident, who lives here. So like, that's another thing to consider, is it different, is it, I was a question, is it different? If the owner is in the. It's another.
Or of this in my
Yeah, like, they're living in the same block, you know.
They're.
What it's supposed to be. So the subletting, we're actually talking about subletting, is what we're really talking about.
What it really should say is permanent. Because when you start going to the owner, all of them need to the owner. If somebody behind the person, if it's somebody who is there who doesn't actually own the property, then they're still permanent residents. They're owning permanent residents. But trustees, corporations could own the place, and all kinds of different things could be the owner. Okay, so we don't want to always put it the owner, the permanent resident is what we want. We want people to live in our town. And the best way to live. So. Exactly. So that's. But here's. And so we don't want to force it just the owner. When you go to owner, the definition of owner is huge. It's like thing. It's like thing person.
Yeah, but it's really, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but the logic of it is a little bit different, because it's saying that owner has to live there, so then the broader for the kids, you know. Right.
Well,
But I mean, I don't know the answer to what your question that brings up, I'm just saying, definition, like,
well, I can,
it's narrowed down by the occupancy.
when it says owner. The meaning it was. The meaning it had is that the owners.
That's right. that is my understanding, sorry.
That's not how it reads. So, but that's how it should be.
Yeah, my understanding was that was the original.
The original intent was that it wasn't an SDR. We didn't have an individual there on campus taking care of it. That was the original.
Oh, my understanding is what happened.
That you, sign.
You wanna move on?
Yeah. No, I find this kind of fascinating, this subject. I will spend more time talking to Misty. Because obviously, she's invested. And, if we have like a few people that can get together and look at the concerns and talk to planning and zoning administrator and what he sees and clerk, what they see, and come back to planning and zoning with some ideas of definition and what we're trying to do here to promote what NBV does and not promote irresponsible posting or renting or short-term thing. And yet, maybe that's what we want. Maybe we just want a short-term rental now. And it's, we advertise it as the short-term town, the West or something.
I mean, this is on my table that in many towns, residential hosting means either a bed and breakfast or terms that are longer than 30 days. So there's lots of ways to purchase if we want to think outside the box. But things go forward. I'm just ripping on you there.
We'll move on to the next item. Oh, someone to work on it. Do you want to volunteer? A volunteer to work on item 2.
When you propose.
The proposal you just made.
Yeah. Put it on my list. Yeah,
You're working
that,
on it, helping,
I would be glad to see if this you and some others, anybody who'd like to. Committee to kind of try and come up with something that.
I'm gonna let you stay on the outdoor lighting, Ken.
What about outdoor lighting?
I want you to keep working on it.
We should work with this. You think I still have work to do?
Um,
Right in the middle of that. You know, good to have a perspective.
he's working on 60 anyway.
Okay.
Well, you're working on the short-term rental portion of 60.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You wanna reach out to Misty, and, if you two can't, we'll have to see if Misty wants this ordinance on the, on for public hearing next month.
That's the case, I'm pretty sure there's some major revisions
Oh,
compared to what we had. So there were 2 different versions, we only had one.
that's probably because this is the one that you finalized on after the discussion, so. So if you want to reach out to her, Amelia, I'll also ask if she wants this in a public hearing. Or if she wants to work with you first on some alterations, but. All right, On to item number 4, outdoor lighting ordinance. This is for the commercial lighting. Kent, this one's you.
Sean and I have made some changes, tightening up wordage. And I think it requires, this is pretty extensive, it's 6 pages. It requires the members of the commission to read the changes that we've made. And because some of them I think are significant in my efforts to, and Sean's efforts to be respectful of the night sky that we have in our town. And to try and do what we can to maintain that with commercial lighting, and tightening up commercial lighting, so. You can see on the piece that you got,
Which one?
Real quickly, yeah.
So before you continue, can you point us to which one we're actually looking at? Because I've got 4 different items in here, so.
In the folder, is it the one that?
I've got one
Yeah.
that says Kent.
Okay. No, that was perfect, actually.
So is it the Kent one?
I've been trying to get Harold's and engage, having trouble.
The one that is in the folder, the Kent.
So she scanned this and then put it in, and under the last one, it says light.
Oh, yeah, I see it now.
It's your,
It's a scanned document.
you can use photo of my copy. So it says, is everybody got that? So it has the highlight and it also has a loading. Okay,
So the highlight,
the highlights are in there, and what are the highlights mean? Something that needed to be discussed.
and then the lines that are crossed out, that's my beautiful computer work. So I remember you guys that I never had a computer class or a tech class in my life. All I had was a typing class. So the cross outs and the right in are mine and John's changes.
I'm glad you didn't.
And like, if you have any questions, if you look at this. We were changing. Let's take page 1.
Do we want to just? Commercial lighting,
I would love to go to commercial.
let's,
I would like to just start there. If you have 6 pages, I would like to narrow it down to.
that's clear on page 4.
Bottom of the page.
Bottom of page 4.
Okay, so let's move to page 4. I would really like to not do 6 pages. So if we could just do the last 2 pages, that.
Yeah, I think the first pages, those first 4 pages are mostly just tightening up some words, from should to must, or should be required, that kind of stuff, a lot of that, and you can look at that another time. Commercial lighting, and then is Sean.
Quickly brief and Julia on what we're trying to do on
Yeah, I'm trying to get it pulled up.
so while that's coming up, let me tell you, so the lighting ordinance is, we're trying to, right now, it's the downwind filter. Pretty much that for the downwind filter. And then there's, over not much. We've got that you're required to do. So what we were trying to do is put some general guidelines. We already passed it up. That have 7 different points. Glare, shielding, with a few other, direction, time, the other lights on, color, temperature, things like that. And if we have those 7 points, we can then take any subject of this commercial lighting and go through each one of those points and say, what do we want commercial lighting to say about? What do we want it to say? Because it's going to be different than in residential. And that's going to be different than industrial, if we have, or open space, things like that. Or different standards for that. So, did that come up?
Oh, we had it before. Where do you want her to read it?
I'm just explaining it, so that's why positioning. That first one, and then shielding, like, coming to the building,
Okay.
that's what it was like.
So first, correction, you see, let's go for example to Q. On page 5, at the top, B. Unless specifically exempted by this section, all commercial outdoor lighting will be shielded from. Will be shielded to eliminate glare.
Okay. That should probably be a.
So we can go down, items, 2 under B.
So, my question on that would be.
I don't know that those 2 words are much different, minimize or eliminate, but.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
between minimize and.
Yeah.
Right. There's a huge difference between minimize and.
Thanks, that's why.
Sean, you have a comment, go ahead.
Okay, so the comment would be if you put a limiting and it lets be shielded, then the number 1 and 2 are not this. So it's supposed to say minimize glare, and then you have number 1 and you have number 2.
Yeah, I see what
There's
there's
that. Just say what you want, sir. If you want to eliminate, then it could be put under number 1, where it's just minimize, that's where it would say it would be. Glare, if the filtering can eliminate the glare. Then you don't need shielding. But if it doesn't, you need shielding and you need filtering. You can go. So I
Okay,
agree
so-
with that, if you wanna. You understand what I'm saying.
did get that.
So the stupid
Why
question,
didn't say get rid of 1 and 2?
stupid question. Is it possible, like, if a commercial business is doing lighting? Or whatever, is it possible to eliminate all the glare?
No.
Yes.
See, if lights are above you, there's no way possible. And they don't glare.
So that's why the goal is to eliminate glare in the property. Yeah,
So someone's gotta define glare for me then, because I.
Okay, so eliminate.
That's the.
The definition is in the sort
Yeah, but can you tell me what it is right now? So I don't have to go back up.
of,
Would you read it?
it's a, go ahead.
An intense. And it says must have lighting, blinding light that reduces visibility, so light that reduces visibility, so it's that. Blurry glare that comes off lights, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
let me put it another way.
what, I'm gonna,
These glare right there.
yeah, that. So to push back on this eliminate glare. If I am a light sleeper. And I can see a light from my house, because I don't have curtains for some reason. Or I don't want to draw them. And I complain about it. Is there a way that the town can say? No, you're just being a jerk, that's not glaring,
Put that in the ordinance.
how do we, yeah, that's what, I guess that's a better way to put it, how do you test for glare?
Right. What we've set up here is,
Because if I say minimize glare, I can always say, hey, look.
yes,
We have made all the efforts we can. We've done everything we can do to make, we have shielded it, we have put filters on it. We have catered to your every whim, Cameron, you're just gonna have to draw your curtains now, cause I can see a light. Cause my house is lower than Gene's house, and he likes to work early in the morning.
Please, Dean.
And the light, and he has a 12 by 12 window, that's got everything.
right.
Just saying, just for instance. No,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
Agree. Whatever.
So,
That's my only pushback for this.
no, I appreciate the fact that they have defined all the elements because it actually makes it easy in the long run. Actually, it's really good, so. We're just giving you kudos, thanks. You know,
Because it's there.
yeah, because it's good, it's good, but I'm just saying. You get it.
That's my concern, is, like, I would love to eliminate all the glare, I would wanna keep the night sky. I like walking out and being able to see the Milky Way on the darkest of nights, right? But I don't wanna make this so ownersome that the town can't push back against someone that's being.
No, it's not that, it just defines it so that like contractor, it just defines it so that you know specifically what to do with the light to make it right. That's what
Right,
everything-
I'm good with all that.
But I like that.
You're not going to
When- One.
lights that you can see and
Mhm.
just like you can't eliminate and see the stars. They're there, you can see them.
Most.
So. I think, like I can walk out on my patio and it's really dark out there if I don't have any lights on. I can see a few of the street lights, the amber street lights down here, and a few neighbors who have a porch light on, but it's quite a ways away. I don't know how close Dean is to you. And he's got the light on right next door. Well, have you thought about moving? But, I would say something what Sean Hammond said to me once, maybe it's time to talk to your neighbor.
Yeah. No, like,
Or get a curtain in your bedroom.
yeah. Draw a curtain, my wife says this.
We're not gonna. We're not gonna be able to, I don't want to eliminate seeing the neighbor's light. Cause it's there, even though it may have it shielded, I'm gonna see the light, whether it's bouncing off the driveway or the sidewalk, or just some light in the sky there. I'm gonna see that, and if you go to the town, and I hate to use the word Springdale, but
It's
it's all there, commercial lighting is low, well shielded, you can see the light. So that you're safe and you're walking and stuff like that, but there's light underneath that shield, and I don't think that saying eliminate means by law, you cannot have anybody see a light on in your house. I just don't think that means that. I don't think it just means that. Darkness is pretty good sometimes. The glare of a headlight is glare. And if you're standing off to the side, it doesn't bother you. Boy, if you're a rabbit in the road and you're looking at it, you're frozen. And you're focused on it, and that's glare. if your neighbor has a free spotlight, that I used to have in my backyard in Bloomington to, go out and play with the horses or whatever. And it wasn't shielded, it was just out there stuck on the side of the top story of my house. We never even thought about what somebody across the river might have been looking at. Because it wasn't shielded, and maybe it, like you would bother, but it probably didn't have enough lumens and stuff to bother us. So I don't think using the word eliminate is going to eliminate, it's not going to eliminate all the lights, but I think that doesn't. It says to people what we're trying to keep. What we're trying to keep in our community. And for people to work towards that and have a law, rules and ordinances that say, this is what we're working towards. Let's talk about how we can get there. And if we have a code enforcement officer someday, who is the person that goes out to that complaint, to your complaint about Gene. He's got something that he can look at and say, look, Gene needs to put a shield on it. You need to have some curtains on your roof.
I just don't, I just worry, that's my only fear about changing that from minimize to eliminate. But if it's reasonable to
We could typo it, but eliminate.
illuminate, yeah. So let me ask you this on this, if we stick with this B, unless specifically exempted in this section, all commercial outdoor lighting, where are you? Oh, shielded, be shielded, must be shielded. Would it be except, and then item one would be. Filtering is sufficient to minimize glare or to eliminate glare.
Yes.
And two would be. I don't even know what two would be.
Well, it's basically, it's like, and Karen across the street. He had a porch light, and he sits out there and neighbor complained that they can see the light. And so, it was sitting on the side of the house. And so they put it back up underneath, and they, I think they even put a porch roof on the porch. But it would make it so that person across the street isn't getting the glare from the light. Now, there's a lot of places in town that this exists today, where these problems exist. And pretty much anywhere we go, we can find it. But I believe that going forward from there, I think all of us would agree we have dark sky, we have night sky, we love it here, let's keep it. I think we all agree with that. And if that means that you and Gene have what you have today,
Yeah,
then we're okay with that. If you're okay with it,
yeah,
if you and Gene are okay. But if we're gonna build a home, or we're gonna build a commercial building,
mhm,
and we're gonna approve that, then a code enforcement officer can go to those new homes or new people, new businesses and say, here's what we need, look at the plan, this is what we want you to do. And I've talked to Gene before about different places that are commercially coming into reality right now. And he's assured me that all of that has been taken care of, so that the shielding and the night sky that we have.
okay, so. Got that. I wanna look at the specifics though, so. Sean, and on that number two, Sean and Ken. So we're saying shielding is always required to eliminate glare unless one, filtering is sufficient to eliminate the glare, or two. The under eave, canopy, patio cover, or other similar cover qualifies as shielding, but must be filtered to eliminate glare.
So
So isn't that saying the same thing as two?
If I'm wrong on this, catch me wrong. Filtered mean that you may have to, put something on the glass to minimize the glare coming through it. If it's just a clear pane of glass, you may have to smoke it. Or put something on it to eliminate that glare, so that it's not a direct glare at your neighbors or the street.
Yeah, I got it. I'm just wondering if we even need the second one at all. Since the first one already talks about filtering. And this is not for a home, this is for commercial. Right, do we even need that number two?
So the number two is the except, the one and two are except. So you don't need shielding if it's filtered. You don't need shielding if it's under a canopy, unless there's glaring bulb.
So you need them both.
Yes.
What does it under a canopy mean? Does that mean recessed lighting in a canopy, or does that mean a porch light?
It can mean under a porch. It can mean Karen's light that's up above the edge of, front edge of the porch.
But this would be commercial.
Usually recessed lighting, because recessed lighting really is. In a way shielded.
Yeah.
But you don't need a specific shield to put over them.
Can we specify that in two? But can we say,
So like these lights right out here. Underneath the kitchen or the one right out here is shielded. But it still has glare, so it should be filtered as well.
But I want to give you an example of it. When you have that candy. What would you mean by that? If you look at Zion Wildflower, they have lights like that. All the next is underneath the canopy, and then we would have the glare. But I look at it every night in my kitchen, and there's all these street lines, lying like outline. They're not shielded. Yet they're on campus.
thank you. So should two? So what I'm trying to do is dig down in this so we can actually get an ordinance written. So should,
Thing out of things done that would be the. Still may need to, I would change that, but must be filtered.
but should we? Should that be recessed? Lights. Under an eave or canopy. Or patio cover, or other similar cover. And not just any light.
Like,
So that would be like the mayor says, those are down the bottom. So what they would have to do is they would have to recess them up into the canopy. So should that be reset?
that would be shielding, but they could also filter them. They could put a Dixie cup over the top of them and then there's no glare.
Well, that's a field. I'm still doing it.
It's, well, I'm just using it as saying it could be a filter. But a shield would be totally blocking the light. Shield is totally blocked out of the where it totally blocks the light. A filter is something where it's translucent, you can see the light. That's filter. So like this light right out here, it is below this shield. Okay,
But like,
No,
right
not
out
for-
the door. Okay, so it's still below there and it still has a glare. And if it was like these, it would really be like that. It just needs to be filtered. Some kind of small glass or something that didn't like, diffuse
Needs a different.
it. Yeah, well,
So do you want that to be recessed or? not? Okay, but it must be filtered. Got it.
and it must be under the camp or the patio.
All right, so we'll move on to C, the use of lower, anyone can feel free to jump in at any time, by the way. The use of lower light colors is required. think the next sentence can just go away.
Say where.
The next sentence, the general outdoor lighting guidelines for. In regard, because that was the table that went away.
Yes, exactly, that just.
Well, the second, that can just go away, and then that can stay as it is. Filtering. Filtering may be required for luminaires to minimize glare. We've already established that in the shielding part. Right, so you don't always have to have it, because you could have shielding, but if you don't have shielding, you have to have filtering. So that's good to stay, right?
Yeah.
Directional lighting must be contained within the property. Period. I think you can just do a period.
So do you know what we mean by directional?
Yeah, spotlights. Spotlight.
So any light you have, the glare has to stay within the property, should stay.
The lit area.
Yeah. Now, if you want to stay up late tonight, when it's dark and drive up to the BMX,
Are they gonna do it today? I'll drive over there. Are they doing it today?
I don't know.
Okay.
They haven't been this regularly.
Okay.
But tonight's the night. But, then when it's dark, you can, and you know, this time of year may be pretty hard to get out there. When it's pretty dark, you can see what glare is. It's already greater than glare. And they just don't have the lighting facilities, the luminaires, the ability to adjust and to stay within the boundary of the BMX park, the fence. Not the track, the whole thing.
Okay.
They can't stay within. So they're direct beam like a spotlight. Beaming on someone.
Okay, so E is directional lighting. Can it just be lighting? Lighting must be contained within the property. Does that need to say directional there?
It's a good question, John. I don't know that directional has to start that sentence. Lighting must be contained within the property.
Directional lighting would be a specific
Minimize glare.
attachment with a light. Or maybe using it directed. So that's your spotlights and things like that. Yeah,
So yes,
so spotlight would be a directional light.
yeah, I get what a directional light is. I'm asking for E. Where it says directional lighting must be contained within the property.
You know, yeah, there.
Yeah.
I like this.
We'll hold months for now. Does that need to say direct? Or should it just read lighting? Yes,
I can see it now.
Wait,
Directional lighting is a specific type of lighting.
Yeah.
When you talk to a lighting designer and you say directional lighting, it means something different than this lighting. This is not directional lighting.
but for us, for our purposes, to minimize glare. Are we only concerned about directional lighting?
It's, oh no, we're taking out.
We're gonna take out E glare, we're just gonna.
No, it's gonna say directional lighting must be contained within the property. Period. Or
Yes, I'm just wondering if we need to be that specific as in directional, or if we can just be more broad and lighting in general. What do you guys think about that?
because it's difficult if you have a light like in my shop down there, light that illuminates my parking lot area. The light itself is directed down and hits an area, but it will go beyond that to cap clear to the edge of the property and probably beyond because there's just a chain link fence. And And for security cameras, it's also, that's all they've been paying for security. But it's a directional light. If it was just straight lighting, then I wouldn't have that type of light for outdoor. So it has to be directional.
Time of operation, we've changed that to 10 p.m.
Right up and
I'm thinking that might be a little early, Kent.
Yeah, I mean, 10 o'clock is still light outside.
Almost, yeah. During the summer.
It kind of depends on the time of year to some extent.
I do like that that would be cool, the automated reduction timing is strongly recommended.
Especially, I know that's available even on residential now, but especially on the Marriott, Fairfield has that reduction lighting as the light goes out of the sky. They stay on, I believe, all night. Don't they? I think there's some light in the parking lot all night.
Yeah, they stay on, but they go very dim and then when they sense movement, they come back up. But you kind of cover that later too.
So let's talk about 10 or 11. It's hard to
we're on that. Go ahead.
compromise.
I think 11. I'm just trying to think of what time most businesses are going to be done and their employees are gonna go home.
then 10:30 is the noise ordinance.
I believe 10 is the noise ordinance. I think 11 is okay. I don't know what you think. I've never considered the automated reduction timing, that's cool. That's nice. You can do that even inside the store, it could be really nice. To get people to learn faster. Going down, we do not have a commercial lighting plan, so. Whatever. And then J confuses me because it says commercial specific lighting standard, well, this whole section is. Commercial specific lighting standard.
That's okay.
Got it. So how do we, what would be the,
Oh, no, there was general, and then now there's. So it doesn't need to be J, I think it was listed. So you have general standard. And
right, but we're on the commercial lighting, I missed the general standards. Can we just get rid of the general standards and just have it be commercial lighting?
it's commercial.
And then we retitle.
Where is that?
Clear back at the top. And then we retitle J. Sorry, I'm jumping around a lot. I apologize.
Where commercial light plan,
So if you go back up to 3, commercial lighting, we just removed general standards. Remove the word general standard, then we 5. That's the bottom of 4, sorry. The bottom of 4. See where it says 3 commercial lighting?
yes,
And that says general standard?
Yeah.
We remove general, we remove the wording, we remove those 2 words, general standard. And then when we come back down to the bottom of 5, it says J, commercial specific lighting standards. That needs to be retitled.
But. Yes, it is. And then these, we have.
Additional standards or something. I don't know how you retitle it.
I like it, additional specific.
But yeah, that's fine with me. And then or if you want to re-engineer it some other way. Parking lot lighting. Low lit. low color temperature, all sufficient for safety measures. Aren't good for commercial parking lots.
Fire.
I think the time reduction illumination should be required on large parking lots. I don't think it should be required on small parking lots. So for example, if I have a little coffee shop that goes in that's like the one at the bottom of the hill, right? So we get a little shop that goes in the commercial zone. And they have a small parking lot of like, I don't know, like 15 cars or something. I don't think we should put the burden on them to be required to do this time reduction elimination. But I think if, for a larger like commercial, like if you're doing a hotel or you're doing a large parking lot with a lot of lights, then yeah, we should be.
Say large and then when you get defined, then.
I don't know, you can put a number on it. I don't know. You guys can work on that
I would
number.
reward some. Parking lots.
Yeah, you could say any parking lot over so many square feet, any parking lot over 1,000 square feet. Or, you could look at a parking lot size and say, so in 500 square feet, you can fit this many cars. That's probably okay to have this thing not time reduced, but anything over this is, we're gonna require it. Or maybe you do it by luminaires, so any parking lot requiring more than one luminaire. You're gonna have to time, or 2 luminaires. Right? So, and I think you do this because like. We actually want to encourage a restaurant to come in, so we shouldn't make rules that are going to discourage a restaurant. Right? Yes. We'll get through this. All right, next, moving on, the canopy lights. We addressed canopy lighting earlier, so does it need to be addressed again?
This is the specific canopies for,
Gas station?
gas station. That's what they mean by canopies, so we want it in the lighting ordinance, that's why.
I think that's
Or do
fine.
we leave it only in the gas station section?
I think if you put service station or gas station canopy lighting. And we require those to be turned off after 11. I think is great. That's what we did with the current.
What I'm saying is, you want it, it's already there. Do we just move over into here and duplicate it, or do we leave it where it's at, and just reference over to that?
Let's put it here and duplicate it,
Okay,
just for the sake of the public
And there could be potentially other.
and for the sake of someone that's reading our lighting, that's doing something commercial and reading the lighting word.
talking, and call it the service station.
Or gas service station, however we define it.
One general in this part, the canopy lighting.
Well, we covered the aspects of canopy lighting above, if you remember, they're required filtering for other. Yes,
If you want, I thought he was saying it's the service station.
That's why they're. Word specific. For lighting.
Yeah, but
This is a specific thing,
So are you writing service station canopy here or just the mention?
you are right.
Service station.
Okay, see,
all right, and I don't know about the security lighting. I think there should be some requirements on security lighting. Cause it is gonna remain on all the time, so if we keep it.
Yeah.
But I don't know what those requirements should be.
If somebody's motion detected light coming on, that will typically go back off.
This would be non-conforming security lighting. Typically, at the top. Because we already talked about security lighting. This is non-conforming security lighting, such as you have to bring in one of those big lights to do some event or something. It's tied to that in commercial. And
Thing on, we gotta have a thing on the morning.
That's why it's saying the non-conforming security lighting may be used after following the same procedures for event lighting.
Oh, I got you.
You label.
This is like temporary, we're having something big.
Yeah. It's.
Got it.
It's non-conforming, but it meets with your permit.
Okay, so
But it's allowed.
that's gonna refer to the event lights. All right, specific event lighting.
I also have bottom string lighting.
Mm,
String lights is number.
Where?
4.
where?
Just, it's a note, but for myself.
Oh,
There's no number.
yeah,
Oh, there is number 4. It's special event lighting.
yeah, so 5 string lights, and you'll cover those.
So 5 would be string lighting.
Okay. All right, we're almost through this. Everybody okay if we push this just like 10 more minutes?
So signs and advertising lighting are commercial, but they're also a different section.
Mm-hmm.
So we could spend a whole hour just on that. I would say we've done a pretty good job.
Good job.
So we don't want to cover signs right now?
I would take a stab at it.
Okay, 10 minutes. The general outdoor lighting guidelines are required for sign lighting with the following further regulations. The general. So that should read, commercial outdoor lighting requirements are required for signs. For sign lighting with the following additional regulations.
I think by the time I got to this point, it was just cut paste out some just to get a placeholder, none of it. It's just a repeat of what.
Okay, it's just a repeat.
That's such a heavy thing.
Okay. Let's address the color real quick. So when you're working on this. 2,000 seems really low for a sign.
I know.
Are you sure?
When I have attempted to purchase lights for, Falcon Ridge, where I used to work. Finding anything under 3,000 K for like outdoors lighting type stuff was really quite difficult. But yeah, this is for signs, but,
That's what I mean, isn't it different?
and this is for internally lit sign. I don't know, I'm just giving you my experience. So I don't know, like. We have one lit sign at night, it's. White Bison,
Yeah.
I have no idea what their temperature is on those lights. It does not seem terribly glary to me.
I don't even notice it. Probably around 3,000.
I mean, I can pull and look.
I wish at night, but I'll put, I mean, can time go more in, I know, unfortunately, we got 3 hours.
Their sign is, it's not very bright.
But I don't know what picture she left.
All of this again is if there's something that is glaring.
Well, this is for internally lit signs.
Yeah, we can have somebody go and just to fix it. So this is more recommendation.
I like 3,000 or 2,500. Like, I like my porch light at 2,500. They don't know, I can guarantee you.
Really?
I mean, I can go pull a panel off and look at the lights and see.
We talked about this, that's why it's highlighted in 2000. Okay, one of the changes from 35 and 3. 35 is the standard. 3 is on the lower end of that mid-range standard. So it's pretty low with low color.
The problem that I'm concerned about with regards to interior lit advertising signs such as, White Bison. Or if we wanna look at Wildflower and I have never talked with anybody over there, but I would assume that part of their advertising concept is that when you come down the highway, you see those tents lit up. It said, here we are, and aren't we beautiful? And in a way, I think it is beautiful and it is spectacular. But, interior lighting can be the same thing, so I get concerned about, because I don't know. I do not know what 3,000 on the interior, where there's a mention somewhere in here, Sean can tell, where there's white lighting on a black background, interior lighting.
Or there's black writing with the lit background. And I think we should keep it towards the,
White Bison is going to be a white lighting
no,
with black, right?
white bison is black background with white lighting. Design like bisons is black background, white lighting on the sign part.
Okay, because what I see when I drive down the street is white interiorly lit sign.
The unlit signs are just white panels, but that's because they don't have any signs on them and they're not lit.
Okay,
Only the top one is lit at this point.
that's great. That eliminates my fears. I can see a lot there.
Yeah. Okay.
With the lights on.
So we should probably put that in the sign, in internally lit signs, that we want them background.
It's here, it's here.
Is it?
Where did we have that?
I really think that, time of operation, I think we have to allow businesses to keep a sign lit. Throughout the night. Specifically because we have like hotels and lodging, people need to be able to see those.
I will not offer 24-hour meat service to some.
Great. When that light wakes me up, I'm gonna be. Oh, is that under shielding and required? Okay. We'll just change that to required instead of preferred. Lighting for advertising purposes, which is not lighting specific for signs is required.
So number two, so I too talked about dark background with light lettering.
Yes. So we just gotta change preferred to required.
Okay.
And then the last one we'll talk about is the advertising. I don't understand what this means. So is this meaning like, I have a big Coors Light sign in my window to say that I have Coors Light in my restaurant? Is that what this is talking about, advertising lighting? Lighting for advertisement purposes, and which is not lighting specific for sign.
It's your open sign or your, or. The non-fluorescent, what are those?
Grand opening
Neon,
near.
neon sign. That's what we're talking.
Okay,
Don't need neon sign.
and must be turned off at the end of the business hours or 11 o'clock, whichever, okay. I got it. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have one more that you should think about. That is LED lighting. And I know that it's been problems at times in Liverpool, where George, when he first had a restaurant, he put that sign out on the road, the lollipop sign. He had it in neon,
Oh, the neons.
the neon, sign. It was LED, really bright, multi-light LED signs. Have you seen them flashing, stuff like
The
that?
moving.
Something loud.
Is there anything in here that stops?
On the lighting part, I don't know, I think it's on the sign ordinance, I gotta look back at it. I don't think it allows it.
Yeah, we don't want to.
And so, will you, so I will just transfer that back over.
I think it does prohibit the windows and moving signs.
Vegas, little Vegas.
Hey, you had commissioner comments?
No, I got nothing, let's go home.
I'll entertain a motion then.
Oh, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Ron made the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Angela seconded, just like every other motion tonight. No, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. We went from 8 participants to 5 with my boring tirade question, just so you know.